Hello, hello, hello. This is Misty Magdalena Grace with the new and improved version of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, where we talk about spirituality, psychedelics, plant medicine, microdosing, and really that journey within to finding your best innate wisdom, to your best health, your best wealth through all sorts of inner child healing, trauma release, grief recovery, overcoming addictions, and working with the mind, the body, and spirit. So go ahead, leave a review, subscribe, download. We look forward to your feedback. Thanks for tuning in today. Hey, happy Tuesday, everyone. And if you know, and maybe you don't know, today's also my wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary, honey. If you're new to my show, my full name is Misty Magdalena Grace. I go by Magdalena for short. As you heard in the intro, we talk a lot about deep topics that really help you go within to creating your best health, your best wealth, and trusting that innate wisdom that lies within. And so if you're new to my show, also, we like to play along. So if you want to comment below, hashtag live, if you're on the live where you're tuning in from, city, state, country, and if you're on the replay, hashtag replay. We like to acknowledge you. I am streaming live in my Facebook community, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and we have a very special topic today, near and dear to my heart. As most of you know, I've been very open, very transparent about my addiction journey. And I was actually just on this guest podcast. So hopefully you guys got to hear it, talking about from addiction to enlightenment. So I'm going to dive right in because we got so much to share with you guys today. Trisha, I'm excited to have you here. I'm going to bring you on now. Welcome. I will introduce you a little bit, and then can't wait to have you share your story. So I met Trisha through the World Wide Web of networking, and immediately the host of that networking event was like, "Oh my gosh, Magdalena, you work with grief and recovery and all that kind of stuff. You've got to meet Trisha." And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't thank her enough because Trisha has an amazing story. She's a recovery lifestyle enthusiast, and she has a 30-year plus story that's filled with languishing in control needs, trauma, chemical substance abuse, dependence, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, abandonment issues, anxiety, and so much more. And through her journey, she became an international mental health provider, a master addiction specialist. She's also a wife and mother of 5 grown kids and grandmother of 5 grandkids, ranging from ages 2 to 15. And so she knows how to have fun and live like a kid again. So thank you so much, Trisha, for being here today.
Absolutely. I think the pleasure is all mine. as usual, right? Like, I love that we were connected. Just, even though we're close in proximity, like, we wouldn't have met had we not been in that space together.
Absolutely. So, and like, we both have found the silver lining in our journeys, but you've had quite the road. So I'd love for however you can share whatever you're willing to share about your journey with addiction. And then I know today we're going to talk about navigating addiction through the holidays, which I know you know a lot about.
Oh, absolutely. And just to lay it out there on the line for anybody listening, I am willing to share every ounce of my story, every little piece of it. There isn't anything that I feel isn't worth being heard or shared, because it is very beneficial to everybody. It's just far too long for us to like really get to, because like my story really starts like at the age of 4. So, and probably even beyond that. And I think I've even actually identified that it started in the womb because of the turmoil my parents that raised me were in because of my conception alone. I'm a first, a last, and only, and a middle child. And to explain that, to people, right? Like, I'm my mother's youngest, my mother and her husband, who was my dad, their youngest. Mm-hmm. I am my biological father's oldest, and I'm their only child. And so, to be fun and playful, I can say that I was an affair baby, right? And so, like, I know that caused turmoil in my mother's marriage. And so I can say that my story did start as far back as, pre-birth. So, but you know, my story really started that way. I mean, I really think I came out of the womb with perfectionism needs, right? Like with that disorder already. And so I had this internal something that said I have to be perfect in all things that I do. So by the time I was 4, I was reading, writing, doing arithmetic, playing chess. By the time I was 5.5, I was playing classical piano. And by the time I was 6.5, 7, I was already a competitive swimmer, and training. So, you know, like there was a lot of that going on in there. And, you know, I was also not a stranger to alcohol in even those young ages, right? Like it was no big deal to walk back past dad's beer and pick it up and take a swig. You know, not that my parents condoned drinking, but I at that age can identify with just, you know, like walking by and you know, picking it up and taking a swig. And I can also identify as a younger child, you know, wanting to go to the big church on Communion Sunday, which was the first Sunday of the month, because they served real wine in the tray, right? So I've been able to, in my journey, uncover some of those things that were, you know, very much buried in you know, inside. But so that was there. So, you know, so when some more of those traumatizing things happened in my life, and my first sexual assault was at the age of 4, and I still remember it to this day. You know, um I'm sure it perpetuated things that were attitudes and behaviors, right? um and so, you know, I had a you know, kind of a strange relationship with food and fitness. And anyway, when my father that raised me was killed when I was 12, you know, I was watching all of the adults, you know, and they were talking and they were communicating and they were able to, you know, share. And I was in a trauma state and very closed off. So I was observing them and they were all smoking cigarettes and drinking. So I picked up a 6-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes, and it was on from there. So that's where my relationship, my true relationship started, was at the age of 12. And it stuck with me. In fact, I worked really hard for 30 years to keep my drinking at an acceptable level so that it wasn't super derailing. But I had a lot of trauma drinking in there because there were numerous sexual assaults, and rape, domestic violence, emotional abuse that happened in my earlier life. So say between the age of 12, 12-ish, 12, 13, and 25, 26, right? A lot. There was actually 5 significant incidences and 2 really negative relationships that happened in there. So I did a lot of trauma drinking. And so at 26, I really started moving into a space of, you know, working really hard to be able to hold on to my alcohol because it was my best friend and I didn't want to lose it from my life. And so I, you know, worked really hard to figure that out. Now, of course, I'm skipping completely over my recovery from anorexia. Um, and that started when I was roughly 15. And I really started recovering from that, from those eating disorders, because there were multiple, around 26. So when I was, you know, truly recovering from anorexia, even though I had already attained a healthy body weight and was actually, you know, allowing myself to eat things that I would have normally never eaten, I was still holding on to the alcohol. And I maintained for a long time. My husband and I raised 5 amazing children, as you said, right? And we made it through things like our oldest daughter had leukemia. The other daughter got E. coli and developed hemolytic uremic syndrome and had to have, you know, emergency dialysis. There was just a lot, right? There was a lot in a family that size. And what happened though was I had some near-death experiences. Um, my my physical body started attacking itself at the age of 18. And so I struggled with a lot of autoimmune disease through that time period. And so to keep it short, right, by the time I was 29, I had to have a full hysterectomy, or lose my life. So after that hysterectomy at 29, what happened was hormonally, I developed generalized anxiety disorder. And my provider, who knew I was a daily drinker, prescribed Xanax and continued to prescribe low dose Xanax for my anxiety over the course of a 5-year period. What I didn't know that was happening was a synergistic effect inside of my body where the addiction was becoming physiological. So my tolerance grew and grew and grew and grew, and the dependence grew, even though I wasn't abusing the prescription, and I wasn't taking it for any sort of a high. It was causing high levels of dependence on the alcohol. So fast forward to the 5 years after that. Now I'm 43 years old. I have a totally physiological addiction to alcohol, completely incapable to control it, stop, cut down, cut back. So for a control freak, totally devastating, right? For a perfectionist, totally devastating. So what I knew, because I was, an intelligent being, was that I needed to do a medical detox, that I was at high risk and in danger. In fact, the danger was really that 5-year period where I was being prescribed a medication that should never have the combination with alcohol. So that's kind of what started my journey here. And I know I skipped over so many important things, like what did the trauma look like? What did I get over? How did I learn how to look at all of those rapes and sexual assaults as having nothing to do with me? Right? Like the bad action of another being wasn't mine to carry. I was merely the vessel, and it hadn't have been me. It would have been somebody else. Yeah. Right? There was a lot of work that had to go into that. And I did the work. And I did the work even though I never let go of the alcohol. So, it made my journey a little bit easier. But as soon as I realized what caused the thing that took me out, right? It took me out from my addiction. If you're familiar with, our regular type of lingo, the thing that took me out, like I had to understand it. So I went back to school and studied the physiological effects of drugs and alcohol on the body. Was, the very first thing I took. I had no intentions of ending up where I am now with 15 different credentials and a private practice and, speaking publicly, et cetera, et cetera. But, the programs that I've cultivated are all seated in evidence-based practice. And for the last, now 11 years, because I'm patient zero, they work. And they've proven to work over and over and over again. So anyway, I'm here.
Amazing. Well, I mean, that is so much to share. And I know that I want to have you on multiple times because there's so many different layers there, talking about trauma and even anorexia. I mean, there's all these different things that you've experienced in this lifetime. And I'm grateful that you have created your programs and you're sharing that with people. And then I can refer you to, because there's so much wisdom and compassion that I feel from you. And so grateful that you could be here today. And we called this episode specifically Navigating Addiction Through the Holidays. At the time of this recording, it's just after Thanksgiving, which we celebrate here in America. But it's also seasons of Hanukkah. They just, in fact, I think I had a dream about Diwali last night, even though that was earlier this month. So it's just like holidays are on the brain. Seasons greeting cards are in the aisles at the grocery store. I mean, holiday parties, happy hours, traveling to grandma's house, all of these extra things. And if you're struggling with addiction, the holidays can actually really suck. And I know they did for me. I don't know if they ever did for you, but I always sort of was afraid of the holidays because I knew this over-consuming person who, struggled with abandonment issues. That was my core wound from many lifetimes, and ancestral for my reason and coping with drinking and turning to that. It was just too available for me. I couldn't say no. So what do you do? Any tips? Let's talk about that.
Well, I think first and foremost, what I would say to anybody and everybody listening is to put down or remove, throw in your metaphoric trash can, whatever it is, whatever societal norm you have imprinted inside of you of what recovery really is, what addiction really is. Because here's the thing, society has conditioned just about everybody to think that recovery is for those people that are down, out, ill, they're poorly functioning, they need to be removed from their lives, they need to be sent someplace else to be fixed so that they can come back and be okay, right? So addiction is much broader than that, right? Society has a very narrow perspective around those two words, addiction and recovery. Addiction is not just chemical substance. It is not just an inability to stop. It is not, somebody that is, despite negative consequences, continues to use. It's not, it is those things, but it's not only those things, right? So you could be leading, and I'm going out on a limb here, right? But my favorite signature talk to give is why living without habits fixes everything. So we have process addictions, we have behavior addictions, right? So all of these good habits that you think you're building and all of these good habits that you think you're going to fold into your life come January 1, because some curtain's going to raise up and you get a whole new fresh start because it's the beginning of a new year, right? Like it's a false sense of security, because here's the deal. The definition of habit is impulsive action without a lot of thought. So if you're going through life impulsively and not connected, right? Like Mag, right? Like we're connected to the work we do. We're connected to everything. Like intuitively, I know why I say, do, think, feel, believe everything that I do. So I don't ever habitually get up and go to the gym, because if I get up and go to the gym habitually, I am not reaping the benefit. I'm not present. So it becomes an addiction. You become addicted almost to your own body, the endorphins that you're creating in your body. So you just have to have it. If you can't, your world crumbles. And all of a sudden, like, I couldn't get my 6 a.m. spin class, so I'm going to be at grumpy pants all day. That's just an addictive behavior. Yeah. Same with coffee, right? Instant gratification needs of shopping, cell phone, right? Holy cow, you don't answer this message, right? Like sometimes my husband will come in and go, are you watching your phone at all? And I'm like, well, it's there, but no, I'm not, right? I don't get sucked in by social media. I don't, the scroll thing, the TikTok, no, none of it, right? Like I'm on social media to raise awareness that I'm here for somebody that my message resonates with, but that's about it, right? But so all of these things, we have a habitual way of doing things. Those are all addiction.
I 100% agree with you, by the way. I just have to say that. I'm grateful that you say that, because a lot of times when people think, I've invited people to addiction webinars or talks or things, and they're like, oh, but I'm not addicted to anything. Why would I show up? And I'm like, you just answered my message like in a nanosecond. So I'm guessing you probably are addicted to something.
Right? Yeah. We all have that. So, back to your original question, like what suggestions do I have? Well, number one, I want you to throw away any idea you have of creating a New Year's resolution. Right? I want you to take a look at your relationship with whatever your thing is. Is it sugar? Is it shopping? Is it people-pleasing codependency? Is it perfectionism? Is it alcohol? Is it opiate, pain medication? Is it the kratom you can buy over the counter in the whatever it is for you, right? Like we're all unique individual beings. Maybe it's just Ben & Jerry's and it's no other kind of ice cream. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. I want you to look at whatever it is that's holding you hostage and ask yourself, are you ready to be free? Are you ready to be done? Yeah. Right? Because you don't need a resolution about it. You just need to make a decision, because it's a choice. It's a choice until it becomes a physiological addiction, of course, but it's still a choice. So, you want to, to get through the holidays, you want to make that decision, right? So as we're getting ready to go into Christmas, all of the holiday parties, all of the everything drive me insane, because Christmas is, what it is. It's one day, maybe, 1 to 7 days, depending upon your religion, right? And it's not our birthday, or why we celebrate ourselves so much in this space, but we do, right? And it's not even about us. But anyway, I want you to take a look at that and say, what kind of limits and limitations can I negotiate with myself, so that I don't come out the end of this holiday season with all of the guilt, shame, remorse, whatever. Also, I want you to be willing to do some self-observation. The next time you go out and have a, I don't know, drinking binge, or you have a ton of sweets, right? Like, look at your own attitude and behavior after. Some people are like raising their hand right now, like, I don't have an addiction. I only drink on the weekends, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the deal. You drink all weekend long. You set yourself up Monday through Thursday for the next 4 days. You're going to have anxiety and depressive states, probably be irritated, agitated, annoyed, frustrated, and bothered by a lot of things. Come Thursday, you're going to start feeling better, which is what gives you the okay to reward yourself again on Thursday night, happy hour, Friday, Saturday, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking on the weekends, significantly on the weekends, you're signing up for it. Mm-hmm. So I want you to, before you start to drink on a Friday night or at that Thursday evening holiday party, before you start to drink at it, I want you to tell yourself, I'm signing up for irritation, agitation, frustration, anxiety, and depressive states for the next 4 days, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're taking responsibility for it.
Because that's physiologically going to go on in your body. It's going to happen, whether it's, everybody's got their own thing, right? Like if you and I stub our toe on the exact same rock at the exact same velocity, our responses to it may be different, right? Like I know this because I've met people and we've compared, and it's like one person's going to put their foot up and be like, I can't walk for, until whenever the toe heals. Me, I'm taping them together and I'm moving on, right? Like if I stub and break a toe, it's no big deal to me. Somebody else stubs and breaks a toe, it's catastrophic, right? So, how that anxiety and depressive states really shows up for you, or that irritation, could be different, right? Like if yours is low level severity, good for you, but still acknowledge that it exists, right? Still acknowledge that that's why you have a short fuse with your kids on Monday morning. Yeah. Still acknowledge that's why you're annoyed with your spouse, right? On Monday evening, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's 2, right? And please don't make me summarize them. So there's 2 recommendations. And then my third recommendation is for you to examine what I refer to as your locus of control, because I'm a Julian Rotter fan, and his theory on locus of control is huge for me. In fact, I've expanded on it greatly over the years since I've been in service, in my own life and in the life of others. But so if you're in an external locus of control, this is where the issue lies, right? So this is where you give an emotional purpose to the alcohol, right? Like the alcohol is going to make things more fun. It takes away my social anxiety. Oh, like I'm so, it just makes it the party funner. Or get this, it's going to de-stress me at the end of a really hectic week. Like I just need a drink.
I deserve it.
Yeah. I deserve it. Or whatever your reason is, if you've given an emotional purpose to that glass of wine that we all know isn't just one glass of wine, but even if it is only one glass, and you keep telling yourself that, right? Like if it's one glass of wine, great, whatever it is. But if it has an emotional purpose, it's an inappropriate relationship. You are relying on something outside of you to bring you peace, joy, comfort, relief, right? And if you're reliant on another being, right? To bring you value, validity, and worthiness, right? Then you're addicted to other people, like, right, their stamp of approval. So what we want to realize is that glass of wine's purpose should never be anything more than pairing well with your food on your table. Right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't have an emotional purpose to change your headspace, to calm your nervous system, then what other purpose does it have?
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
I learned, for me, like helping me, and this is every different strokes for different folks. So please hear me out on this, because I know I'll probably have a lot of people that would disagree with me. But for me, the demonization of alcohol and the guilt and shame that I felt, and I beat myself up with a flagellation whip, right? That was worse than the actual addiction itself for me. Once I cleansed and cleared that, and then I also saw alcohol, as our ancestors did, by the way, as sacred, and more of a like a celebration. Let's break bread together. Hello, communion wine, sacred. We've lost a lot of the sacredness about any rituals or any routines, and we just, go into the numbing phase. So I don't know if that helps at all, or if that makes it worse, but I just want to say that is things
I love that, because absolutely, if it's a sacred ritual, right? Like the kava ceremony in Fiji, right? Like, I've done those. They're really cool. The stuff tastes miserable, but they're really cool, right? Like, so yes, if it's for a ritual and you have to be able to honestly, right? In here, like be able to tell yourself, like, I'm not just seeking to numb and alter myself beyond recognition because this life that I'm living is just unbearable to face. But for a healing or for a ritual ceremony, all of those things, great. Again, change your relationship with what it is. It's not meant to reward you because you went to work Monday through Friday. Like, everybody has to work. Yeah. Like, don't start telling yourself it's a reward for something that you're meant to do. But I mean, we could dive into the locus of control, but take a look at how much you rely on these things outside of you to bring you peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, or worthiness, right? So people, places, things. Consider your environments also, right? If I can't get to the gym, external locus of control.
Yeah.
If you ever say, you make me feel, that's an external locus of control. Nobody has the power to make you feel, think, or believe anything you don't want to. You choose it. So when we're in the holiday season, right, it's normal for us to get offended by somebody. It's normal for us to, like, follow suit and join the party. We're constantly in that external. Like, am I buying enough gifts? Is my gift going to be good enough? Are they going to praise me for it? Like, was my meal good enough? All the things, right?
Yeah.
External. So we need to get more into an internal locus of control. And that's not to say be self-serving and, self-centered, but you got to be self-serving, right? You got to live for yourself first without feeling guilty, selfish, punished, or restricted.
Yeah.
And then if you think you really have a problem with whatever it is, right? Like, reach out to either one of us. But, like, I'm super passionate about fostering positive change and empowerment through what I consider to be, right, the recovered life. Now, we kind of already touched on it, but in this world, right, recovery is viewed as a challenge to overcome. But I believe, and I know Magdalena does too, right? We believe that it's a transformative journey, right? It's a choice that we make each and every day to live with intention, purpose, and ownership. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for you, right? But, having a recovered life is not just about abstaining from substances, right? It's about embracing principles that lead to a life of complete fulfillment, right? Like, we get to explore the power of choice, the principles of living a fully recovered life, and the profound idea of taking ownership of our own recovery journey. So when we do that, we're looking at making a commitment of personal growth. We're looking at resilience. We're looking at the pursuit of an authentic life.
Yeah,
And
being vulnerable too, being willing to share and open up and be vulnerable. I know that was the hardest part for me because I was a recovering perfectionist myself. So I didn't want to look like I didn't have all my shit together. So being able to be vulnerable helped me then become more authentic, which is why I was so, excited to have you on, because you and I now we get it. The more we hide or try to, cover it and put it under the rug or whatever, it just, the worse it gets, because then it just creates more guilt and shame, and we become addicted to the guilt and shame cycle too. So it's just a constant loop. So I love that authenticity, ownership, and stop giving your power away. Because for me, holidays were tough because of my religion wound, some family of origin stuff, feeling like the black sheep. So I became a victim of that. Like, I created that, and I didn't want to take ownership. I gave my power away to the holidays, to the party, to the family, to the whatever. So it took a lot of work to be able to come out on the other side of that and take my power back. So I like ownership, but then also empowerment would be another word. And you said it too. So
yeah, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, right, like, for our very purpose of getting together here right now, and I don't have it with me, but for all of you that are, because I realized I just told you not to make New Year's resolutions, but for all of you, and I stand by that, but I know so many of you are planning, right?
yeah,
Because here we
it's a
are,
knee-jerk reaction.
November,
We're addicted to that. We're addicted to that. Yeah.
But so right now we're sitting here gearing up for dry January, whether that's alcohol or you're going on that crash diet, right? Like, it's, I'm just going to all encompass it. But so if you're gearing up for dry January, and it happens to be from a chemical substance, right? Even sugar. So alcohol, drugs, even if it's prescription, and even sugar, right? Like, I want you to be aware of the fact that there's things that you're going to experience that can help you. If you know what's happening to you during this period, will help you get through it. So depending on your level of severity, etc., right? Like, how much withdrawal you need to do. Some people may not experience any withdrawal, but you're still going to experience what we refer to as pause, right? So post-acute withdrawal, and it may be super low level, but when you remove something that you've utilized habitually for a period of time, you're going to go through this. So the symptoms, which of course I can teach all about, but I'm getting to it. But the symptoms are really like PMS on crack, right? Like they're like PMS on, super elevated. And I don't want to use any trigger words for anybody. So, but you know what, Magdalena, I have that early recovery guide that I wrote. It's like, I think 48 pages, 8 sections, takes you through everything you need to know.
Yeah.
To expect. And I created it for, right, when people do dry January, dry October, whatever month they choose to do dry, so that you can be educated and have the information there, right? So I think what you could probably do is reach out to either one of us and say, hey, I heard the show today. Can I get a link for the early sobriety guide? Now, I know that's us asking you to step out of your comfort zone and like raise your hand and say, I'd like to have the early sobriety guide. So feel free to say, hey, I want to send it to a friend. Yeah. We're okay with that, right? We're okay with that, because really we're just going to send you a link. And that's that. I know I don't believe in any high pressure, anything. Like, if you need support and guidance, we know what, we're here, right? Like, we're here. And I know all too well that until somebody's ready, it's not going to work anyway.
Yeah. And I'll be, just so you guys know, I'll be dropping a link in the show notes for a consultation time with Trisha too. And I can't recommend it enough. It's a great time of year to actually, I think, personally start. It's a seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD. There is more people dying, so there's more grief. It just like adds up. And so you want to just dive in right now and connect with her. And then I have other options that you can, again, reach out to Trisha directly or myself. I'll have your contact information in the show notes. Where else? I have one more question to ask you before you go.
Sure.
Where else can people find you?
Because I know everybody likes to get to that no trust like factor, right? I think you can see my name, right? You can Google me, right? Like you can Google me, but of course I have a website. It's turningleafsrecovery.com, and that's LEAVES. And you can poke around there. Again, you can just Google search me. I've been around for a long time. Facebook, Instagram is I am Trisha Peridot. Again, I don't do a ton on social media, but if you really feel like you want to poke around in my biz, please feel free.
Awesome. Well, one more word from our sponsor. As you guys know, plant medicine and specifically microdosing for 18 months straight really helped me through my recovery time. And I always say healing my relationship with alcohol. Mine wasn't super extreme, so I do choose to partake from time to time. And so for me, it was more about that relationship, but then also just making sure you guys have awareness of multiple tools for you to play with. So let's hear from Soulvine as one of those options to help you go within and heal your addiction through the holidays.
Healthy and Wealthy and Wise is proudly sponsored by the Soulvine, your number one go-to source for ayahuasca microdosing. This ayahuasca is legal. It is the Cappy vine. There is no DMT extract or molecule as a part of it, and it can and will transform your life from the inside out. Supporting the Shipibo tribe from South America, this is my go-to source for healing. Learn more at microdosingforhealth.com.
Yay! Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Trisha, for being on here and sharing your wisdom at a very divine time that we scheduled this. I always ask the same question to every guest at the end. When you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, what does it mean for you?
Ooh, you know what? It just sends me directly into my life's mantra, which is this is my life too. It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. I get to choose. And we're all unique beings, right? So what's healthy for me may not be for you, right? Like there's just so much to it. Just don't ever lose sight that you are a unique being and your journey can look, feel, and be whatever it needs to for you as an individual unique being. There is no one size fits all cookie cutter program that's going to, save the world. So allow yourself to be unique and create your recovery capital, however it is that suits you.
Beautiful. And remember, no one succeeds alone. So please reach out to Trisha or myself at any time. We really care about you. May this be a time of healing as opposed to, getting worse. So we appreciate you guys tuning in today. Please hit the share button. As I always say, sharing is caring. So if you do know someone struggling with any of the addictions that she mentioned, please do share this message at any time of year, even if it's summer. There's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Until next time, guys, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, download, leave a 5-star rating or review, and also please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from this inspirational message. We hope to see you again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or join my Facebook community. And if you are looking to manifest your best health, your best wealth by trusting your best wisdom within, please go to my website, www.microdosingforhealth.com. Again, www.microdosingforhealth.com to quiet your mind, get into your heart,